This podcast is brought to you by the Prospect Research Institute, a vibrant online learning community providing high-quality educational content, the opportunity to connect with peers, and an outlet for new ideas in the field of nonprofit fundraising research. Welcome to Prospect Research Chat Bites, a podcast by and for prospect research professionals. This is the second in the Career Curious series. I'm Jennifer Filla. Today, I'm talking with Renee Teate, data scientist at Helio Campus, providing data analytics for higher education.
So, Renee, I'm thrilled that your timeline, your chronology on LinkedIn is a mess. And it's a wonderful thing. I just love it when people confound the typical resume. You know, that whole start with one, no gaps. You have stuff all over the place. And one of the things that really stuck out from that for me was your 11 years at NeoCentials, your own company. And I was curious if you could tell me a little bit about that experience and how that's impacted your career.
Sure. Well, the way that worked is that the summer before my senior year in college, I worked with a professor at James Madison University, and I was working through exercises in a book that he was developing to teach a database course. So I was helping test the exercises and edit the writing and everything. And I realized I kind of like this database stuff. So, my senior year in college, I did a few database projects and web development projects and started to get the hang of it. And when I graduated, we talked about starting a company together here in Harrisonburg. Small town. I wouldn't have to go back to Northern Virginia where I was dreading returning to the traffic. And so I thought, sure, I'm young, I'll give it a try. And luckily, at the same time, a project came in to JMU from a government subcontractor that they were looking for a student that could do like an internship kind of project to help design a database to convert a bunch of like massive spreadsheets. They basically had a relational database in Excel form, and they wanted to convert that into a database. Yeah, and so they were asking if they had anyone with database design experience to do this in Microsoft Access and build some forms and interfaces for that. And so there were no students at the time that had those capabilities, but I had just graduated, so I said, well, I'll give it a go at the student rate and see how this goes and see how this project goes. And that project went really well. It turned into a much larger project. We ended up taking it on as a big business contract, and I designed a database that would track hardware, software, and computers that were mobile around the floor of like a government building, so they could put together teams and they could do a search of the database and find out what software was available, a specific set of computers, and how to arrange them on the floor. And so it was pretty cool to realize that I was able to solve a real business problem, and they were surprised that I took it a lot further than originally anticipated and was able to solve a lot of the initial issues. So that was the beginning of our business, and from there I worked with that same subcontractor for several years, as well as professors at JMU, local small businesses, and basically just continued to design and develop databases and small websites. Then there came a point where I wanted to get a part-time job to supplement my business income, and that's when I ended up back at James Madison University.
Aha. So you may be segueing into my next question without knowing it, but I noticed that you graduated from Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology. I said, of course she did. She's a data scientist. But then you went to fundraising of all things. So how did that happen?
Yeah, well, I'll call it TJ for short. So I went to TJ, but I was actually not the typical standout sciencey tech TJ student. I've always been a generalist. I'm like kind of good at several different things, but not like really stand out in any one thing. And actually, I took a computer science course in high school and decided I do not want to do this. This is not my career. I'm not going to work with computers in college. Well, I wanted to work with computers, but not programming. So I was looking around for what to do. I ended up going to James Madison University. They have a degree program that was fairly new at the time called Integrated Science and Technology. And what you do in that program is you take the basics in a bunch of different sciences. So you take like biotech and engineering and some chemistry courses and some statistics courses. You kind of get your grounding, and then you can take more specific classes in subsets of those topics called sectors, and then you pick one for your concentration. So I did actually a dual concentration in engineering and manufacturing, and then I had one that I customized and called Internet Database Technology. So that was when I was first kind of getting back into databases. And so I combined that and did a database for a manufacturing group. And that's how I got back into data. So then through my business, developing relational databases, then when I was ready to do a part-time job, I was local to Harrisonburg, and there are not a lot of tech companies around here. And so the university ended up being a good opportunity for me to find a part-time SQL development job. So that's SQL, structured query language that you use to query databases, and they need somebody in the advancement department, which is the fundraising and development, to query the database and find lists of alumni and list of gifts that had come in, and just write a lot of queries. So that's how I started, got my foot in the door in fundraising and advancement.
Wow, I have to say, I've never heard that story. Out of all the interesting ways people fall into fundraising, and especially the prospect research kind of area, yeah, that's never come up. That's pretty cool. So
it's basically a combination of skills and convenient location.
Yes, and the database, I mean, it's so central to everything, especially fundraising. Well, anything really. So true.
Yeah, nowadays.
Yes. Well, another thing I noticed, and this is how you and I connected on Twitter, was around all of these, this massive energy force you had in 2015, last year. So you earned your master's degree, you started becoming a data scientist podcast, data scientist learning directory, data scientist learning club, and you were working full-time at James Madison University last year. What was the energy burst? I mean, we know you're sane, so
I hope so.
yeah, so what happened?
So I've always been the kind of person that's just involved in a lot of things. From the time I was doing my own business, we always had a lot of contracts going on simultaneously. Then I was, working at JMU part-time and doing the business. And the first full-time job I got other than my business was working at Rosetta Stone, which is also a Harrisonburg-based company. And I did data analysis there. That's when I decided to go to grad school and said, well, if I'm really going to take this further as a career. When I was doing it as a business, it was just, I had the skills to do the contract. That's good enough. But then switching into more of career mode, I thought a master's degree would be useful. So I found a program that's through the state of Virginia called the Virginia Commonwealth Graduate Engineering Program. So CGEP. And so the CGEP program, you can get your degree from University of Virginia, Virginia Tech, ODU, Old Dominion, or George Mason. And the one at University of Virginia was systems engineering. Well, I wasn't originally looking to go into something like mechanical engineering or very like math and structure oriented. I like the idea of systems engineering because it's kind of a bigger picture view of how a system works. And talking all the way back from going to TJ to then going into this generalist ISAT degree at JMU to then going into work with databases, all of it kind of ties into like, how does the system work? How do the different pieces function together? If you change something over here, how does it affect something over here? And so when I started looking into systems engineering, I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I think that's the area I want to go into. So when I applied to UVA, it turned out that I didn't have all of the math prerequisites I needed. So I took some locally at Blue Ridge Community College. And I started realizing if I didn't have enough math after my undergraduate degree, maybe this program is a little math intense for me. And it was, and I learned that a lot of the words that describe the courses are just codes for math. So, I started learning a lot more linear algebra and statistics and optimization and matrix-based calculus and stuff that was like way beyond what I ever wanted to do. And I later found out that a lot of people that become systems engineers don't typically do that level of math on their day-to-day job. So UVA takes a more like theoretical approach to understand the mathematics behind it. But during that program, one of the courses that I took as an elective at Old Dominion University online was machine learning. So machine learning is, part of what you do as a data scientist, and it's having the computer use different mathematical algorithms to look at sets of data and try to make predictions. And I love that stuff. So that's when I started saying, oh, what is this data science thing? So it wasn't until after I had been in grad school part-time after work for, I was already a year into it, started thinking about data science and saying, maybe this systems engineering thing isn't what I want to do, but it relates enough to data science, and that's in my, wheelhouse of working with data and databases, and that's the direction I want to go in. So while I was in that class, because I started seeing the long view at that point, I created the blog to track the work I was doing and to make sure that I wouldn't forget, because in grad school, especially part-time after work, like it's late at night, you're just rushing through everything. I knew I would forget a lot of what I learned. So I started documenting it for myself, but then also sharing it a little bit on Twitter. And I started to realize there's a big data science community on Twitter. And because of that, I started following other data scientists, learning all the terminology, following podcasts, and sharing what I was learning. And people really started latching on to that sharing part, because I think a lot of what was out there at the time was, here's some cool data science projects, here's some cool data scientists, but it wasn't like, how do you get there? Where do you start? What do you do first? And so people were able to kind of watch me learn. So that kind of energized me in addition to the topic. So once I finished grad school, I really dove into the data science. And I decided at that point, and as I had been, so most of my courses were online, but one of my courses, my final year, was at UVA. So I was commuting from Harrisonburg to Charlottesville. And I would listen to data science podcasts along the way. And I started realizing, well, there are podcasts about, what these data scientists have done, how awesome it is, but nothing about what is their background, how did they do it? And so I figured if I had that question and people were kind of also latching onto my beginner struggles with data science on my blog, maybe there was a niche there that other people wanted what I wanted in terms of like somebody to follow or to look up to and to understand how did they do it. So I found a bunch of data scientists on Twitter and just contacted them. I said, hey, I'm thinking about starting this podcast. If I do it, would you be interested? And I contacted like 20 people, thinking maybe 5 or so would say yes. And they all said yes.
Of course.
So I now I'm like 13 episodes in. I've been on hiatus for a while, but I'm still going through that original list of data scientists I contacted back in September of last year. So it's now been almost a year. And just talking about like the reserves of energy, it's more of wanting to do something as a hobby and on the side that was going beyond what I was able to do at work, and a really good learning experience, feeling like I'm building for my future, but then interacting with people on top of that. So the energy came from, both the desire to learn and interact, but then also, putting something out there that I was getting good feedback on, and really, and I don't work 24/7. I sleep in very late on weekends. A lot of people, I give the impression that I'm busy all the time, because when I get into work mode, I just take on a lot of stuff. But I also know how to take a break. So I think that's important to convey as well, that yes, I'm busy and I do a lot of stuff, but it's not unlimited reserves of energy.
It just looks like that.
It looks like that from the outside.
Yes, you have this long list of things that you've done.
And I have fun with it. Because I'm having fun with it, that of course adds energy. It's not a burden to learn these things and do this kind of work.
And I guess you've learned how to be highly productive. And that probably comes right out of the school mode. If you're going to go to school and go to work, you better be productive.
Yeah, and just having to fit that all in while I was in grad school after work did get me back in that. So I never really got out of that school mode. You're right about that.
That's great. That's a good answer. And, when I met you on Twitter, I knew you were at James Madison University, and I kind of associated you with prospect research without really understanding what you did there. Now I have a much better understanding. And when you moved to Helio Campus, am I saying that right?
Helio Campus. Uh-huh.
Helio Campus. Uh-huh. I was a little like, uh-oh, we lost one. But Now I get it. So if you could share a little bit more with me why Helio Campus is such the perfect job for you right now.
Sure. So I wrote down a couple notes on things I wanted to make sure to mention because I've just started there a couple months ago, and there's so much good about it. I was just jotting down all these ideas about what I like about my job. And basically what was perfect in terms of the timing for me was transitioning into data science. I've been doing database design and data analysis, and I've been studying data science at this point for, a couple years, and I wanted to apply it to the real world, and unfortunately I wasn't able to do that as much as I wanted to in my job at JMU. So I just started kind of casually looking around thinking, well, eventually I'll find something. And oh my gosh, there were so many jobs available. And what surprised me was a number of jobs that were available as remote positions where you could work at home. Because this field, anything in analytics, is so in demand. There were several roles available. I got 2 offers at the same time. One of them, and this is actually a good suggestion to anybody that is looking for that transitional role. Both of them were good examples of kind of how to do that. So one of them would have been a data analyst role, which is the same title I had before, with the chance to do a little bit of data science with a data science team. So that would have been with a company in California, working remotely. And so they were already confident I could do what I was already doing. And then I would have had the opportunity to learn some data science kind of on the side and maybe move in that direction. So that would have been great because I would have been slowly adding on those skills. The other option ended up being Helio Campus, and I knew some people that worked there from my time at Rosetta Stone. It turned out a lot of the Rosetta Stone alumni ended up at Helio Campus. And because of that, they already trusted me that I could do data analysis, and they trusted that if I said I was learning data science, that I was really doing it because I had already worked with them. So the combination of either starting where you're comfortable and having the option to move forward, or being trusted to stretch yourself and push forward. So that's been great at Helio Campus. I've been able to take everything I've learned and quickly ramp up and learn even more on the job and really participate in building the product there. Do you want me to talk a little bit about what Helio Campus does?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea what you do there.
Yeah, so it's a new company, but here's another reason it was a good match for me coming out of JMU is it's an educational data company. So Helio Campus started actually as a department in the University of Maryland University College. So it was the Office of Analytics. And this is one of the reasons that I applied to work there, because I was so fascinated with how this happened. And coming from fundraising at a university, I had never heard anything like this coming out of a university. So they did such great work within UMUC. The university recognized that other schools would want to also replicate these successes, and that they had really built something unique that other schools were looking for. So the university made an investment to spin off the company as a startup. So they took the entire Office of Analytics and turned it into a startup company.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting. And it's still in the education space. They might eventually leverage my knowledge of university fundraising, because they really take into consideration all the different pieces of data at a university. They're looking all the way from admissions to enrollment to student success to finances, and tying that all together into dashboards. So they combine the data into a unique data model that they host on the cloud. Well, I should say we, now that I'm a part of it. I'm still talking from the point of view when I was watching them. So now that I'm a part of it, I can tell you that we host the data in the cloud and build a data model, and then make that data model accessible to analysts at the university. So they can both use pre-made dashboards, but then also build their own reports and do some analytics on top of that as well, because the data is now all combined in one place. And then what I'm able to do is take that pre-made data model and easily extract the data to do some more advanced analytics and data science. We're doing some predictive analytics around the admissions to enrollment process, for instance, and we're going to do a whole lot more. So it's exciting to be a part of that. The company's not even a year old yet, and I think I was hire number 20.
Oh my goodness.
So it's exciting to be a part of something another startup like mine was at the beginning, and to really see it grow and be able to apply my knowledge of data science there. So it was a really good match for me. I'm lucky that I knew people there, but also I know that I'm contributing as well. So I think it's a good match.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And we haven't lost you at all. You're still in advancement space.
I'm still pushing to get the advancement side of that going too, since I do have a lot of the business knowledge there.
Oh, good. Well, that is really neat to hear about Heliocampus, how that started. I'm not sure people are aware of that, but now you say it's only a year-old startup. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and we're starting to make waves. So I think anyone that goes to industry conferences and things like that, they're going to start seeing us around.
So I'll see you at CASE sometime soon.
That could be.
That would be fun. Well, you mentioned that you knew people there from Rosetta Stone, but I keep hearing, I read different places in the media how the tech field is not friendly to women. In fact, recently there was an article posted under the Go Girl hashtag that there was a young Black woman and she didn't have enough tech in her background for Google, even though she came out of Microsoft. Yeah. And so she just created her own app to have a blind look at resumes. So it's an app for HR professionals, and that's trending now. So those are the kinds of stories I hear. What's your experience been as a woman in this field?
I've actually managed to be very lucky myself in my own career because I started out working independently, and also because that first government subcontractor I was talking about working with was a woman-owned company. So I got the opportunity to work with a company that was led by a woman, to be supported in that way, and to grow myself independently and not be in a corporate office environment where, as I understand it, more of that would happen. Now, I'm not blind to it, and I do see a lot of what goes on and a lot of the sexism in comments made online or assumptions that are made about somebody. I'm sure I've been in that situation, even if not said out loud, where somebody assumes that I'm the wife of the person that's supposed to be at the conference instead of the person myself. So I've experienced it, I would say, in a subtle way and indirectly. But luckily, as far as I know, I've never directly suffered from any of the sexist tendencies that go on in the tech industry. I think also because I live and work in a small town, there are a lot of women in Harrisonburg that work in tech. So between Rosetta Stone and James Madison University, there are a lot of women on the tech teams in both of those places. And in fact, my entire data analytics and reporting team, other than the director, it was all women at JMU. So I've been lucky to be surrounded by, awesome women in tech and to have had a good experience myself. Though I'm definitely aware of things on the sides that you hear, or maybe hear a comment at a conference or on a phone call, or just get a certain feedback that makes you wonder. So I know what goes on, and I'm very active in focusing on diversity in the tech workforce, and hopefully I'll continue to have good experiences there, but also work to help other women have good experiences as well.
It sounds like building the right relationships, whether you did it completely intentionally, whether there was some luck, whatever it was, you had this wonderful mix of relationships as you've moved along.
Yeah, and I've been lucky to always have supportive managers that have definitely seen the potential in me, and that's really important, I think, when you're looking for a job, to make sure that you're directly reporting to somebody that's open and willing to see all of your potential, and not just seeing you for what's on your resume on paper. And as a manager, I hope people will take that into account, to realize that, it's not always somebody's background on paper. Like you said, I have a really weird, long path to where I'm at. I don't have the traditional computer science background or statistics background. A lot of people are coming into data science from a variety of places. So I hope managers stay open to that and realize it's going to be harder and harder to find people with those traditional backgrounds, and that's not always what you need anyway.
Right. It's a different skill set. You can learn.
Yeah, and a lot of companies have people on the job, schools that need to find data scientists, or organizations that need to find data scientists to work on their fundraising analytics. A lot of times you can find people from within the organization already that are able to gain those skills. So it doesn't have to be somebody that has a certain degree or a certain background. It's definitely something that you can learn over time.
Well, that's good to hear, especially for people that are wondering what to do with their careers in prospect research.
Mm-hmm.
There's that possibility.
Definitely.
So what are the top 3 things that have helped you most in your career? If you had to narrow it down to 3, what would it be?
I would say, like I mentioned, people taking a chance on me. So that's always worked out in my favor. I don't know if it's that I'm good at selling my skills or that, I just pick good people to work for. But that's definitely always helped to have someone that's willing to give you a chance. And I hope to be able to pass that on in my future career. The willingness to constantly learn and ask questions is definitely another skill that's helped me throughout my career. And just, not being afraid to say, I don't understand this, and to know who to go to or where to go online to get help. But then also just wanting to constantly learn and expand my skills and not getting pigeonholed and stuff where I'm at. It's boring to do the same thing forever, I think. So I think I'll be a lifelong learner in that way. And then the third thing, probably the confidence to take that knowledge and to know I can do it, to be somebody that, I don't know if I mentioned, but I didn't start my master's degree until 8 years after undergrad. So it had been a long time since I had done any of that math. And, I had never been on that trajectory before. So to have the confidence that, okay, I can do this math heavy degree, I can make it. It was hard, but I knew I could get through it with the right help. And then to go into data science and say, well, this is a big pivot from where I was previously. But I know I can do it. There are resources out there. I see other people doing it. I can do it. So I think the combination of having people willing to give you a chance, and then being open to learning, and whether that's on the job or on the side, and then also just being confident that you can do it. I mean, the combination of those things, I think, has taken me as far as I am in my career.
That's great. Yeah, you've got guts. You just go
with the podcast. I was like, hey, nobody's doing this podcast. I guess I'll make one.
I'll just do it.
I don't know anything about podcasting, but I'll figure it out.
You're my kind of person. So what is your next step? I know you just got to Helio Campus, but what's the ultimate dream?
I think definitely being a leader in some way. So either leading a data science team or being able to be part of an organization where I help other people. I guess I kind of am that, and becoming a data scientist, helping other people grow. But, officially, I don't know if it's within the company or on the side with what I'm doing with my blog, but probably the next step is just feeling like I'm able to give back and be a leader, and hopefully lead a data science team or a team of analysts at some point. So I think that's my next step, is to first to finish kind of growing the skills that I want to get in data science and mastering that, and feeling like I'm not in that. I think data science is definitely one of those careers where you feel like you're kind of always at the intermediate stage. There's so much to learn. It's like, I don't know when I'll ever feel like an expert. To feel like I'm more fluid and able to do things faster and more repeatedly is the first step. And then hopefully being able to bring other people along and lead a team would hopefully be my next step after that.
So if someone listening wanted to join that team, especially fundraising analytics, analytics to really power the fundraising at an institution, what would be their first steps? What would you recommend that they start doing, whether or not they're going to do that at their current institution or they're simply looking to grow in the future? What should they do first?
I would say 2 things. One, make sure you have a really good grasp on the business knowledge, which a lot of people in prospect research have. You understand how the system works and how the data helps that system and what data would be useful in order to make decisions there. So just really understanding the core knowledge of prospect research and fundraising, and and how data can answer questions. And then secondly, getting into the technical side a little bit. So if you have access to report developers at your current job, or instead of just looking at the report that's delivered, maybe dig in a little more and say, hey, how is this made? Hey, can I get access to try to make my own report? And you might be able to. We definitely had somebody in prospect research at my previous job that was able to work as a part-time report developer as well. So just asking and getting that experience on the technical side, learning how to work with data, how to run queries, how to, even just from a simple point of view of just pulling a list, but knowing how to access the system to do that, all the way up through doing a little bit of analysis and seeing if you can create some summaries from that list or do some analytics on the numbers in the list. You can just start with Excel, just getting the basics of understanding data and summarization and using it to answer questions.
That's great advice. That's great advice, because then they might decide they don't like it, or they do.
And that's the type of thing that, and even if you just stay a prospect researcher, I shouldn't say just, that's a great career path, but knowing how the data works is definitely going to inform your career either way. And then if you really love it, you can go in the direction of reporting and fundraising analytics. So it's definitely something worth checking out, whether or not you're sure you want to do it as a career.
Well, thank you so much for joining me and sharing so much with us, Renee. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
That was Renee Teate, data scientist at Helio Campus, in the second of our Career Curious series. For more prospect research resources, including Renee's website as part of a fundraising analytics link collection, join the Resource Collections community at prospectresearchinstitute.org.